Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Eclipse Kitchen. Wonder what goes into Hamburger Helper's Beef Stroganoff? Well, I figured it out, and boy is it close to that boxed meal. It's really hearty and doesn't take much time. I have this meal when I really want to have some beef stroganoff. Okay, let's pull up the recipe and see what you'll need for this. Here's the regular ground meat. Not too sure if I touched on this last time, but getting grass-fed or pasture-raised meat products are a great way to get a nutrient-dense food into you, aka ups the nutrition for your meal. Here's the extra broad egg noodles. In the years I've been doing this recipe, I've found the No Yolks brand produces the best results and is very close to what the Betty Crocker Hamburger Helper uses. This is a really nice gravy to use in this recipe. I personally use the Hunter gravy as it gives a nice rich flavor to the meal. For those that do have an allergy to mushrooms, I would suggest either using a brown sauce or a beef gravy in this recipe. Here's the water for the gravy. Make sure that it's around room temperature as this will not activate the gravy's thickener until you pour it into the pan. You want to mix the gravy into the water as the last stage. Here's the vegetables. I personally like using this combination for my many recipes as it's a well-balanced flavor and doesn't overpower the other flavors in the meal. Here's the high-quality oil. Again, you just want enough to lightly cover the pan so the veggies and the meat don't stick. All of these spices are to your preference. You can substitute the chili sauce for 2 tablespoons of zucchini relish to give that meal a little bit of a sweetness instead of going for all savory. Me and the cheese. This is the only other addition aside from the vegetables that I add into this recipe. This gives it a bit of a creamy texture to the meal, and if you add enough to it, you can make it a bit stringy. You can, instead of incorporating it into the meal, transfer the beef stroganoff into a casserole dish, put the cheese on top, and bake it at 350 for 10 to 20 minutes or until the desired meltiness. Alright, now on to the main portion of the show.
Grand. Just gonna get this going here. Just have to finish out getting set up. Just tossing garbage here. Get my meat pack ready. Go because the supper is gonna be like a little lickety split. And I mean that literally. It's gonna be a little lickety split. So I think the only thing I need bit of this. Is to grab the vegetables that I need. I need a big pack of these. Thank you very much. It's always handy to have these freezer packs. Vegetable, chopped veg. Cuts down on the time. So, this is how fast this meal is. I can actually safely turn on both burners and they should be ready at the same time. So, just my 2 tablespoons of oil. That's all I need for this meal. And I just have to shred cheese here. Usually it's like 2 cups of cheese. I had a little left over from my old brick, so I want to shred that up before I shred the other. And I like cheese anyways, so that's that. So this entire meal shouldn't take that long to make. This is based off of the Hamburger Helper instant meal thingy. Figured out the exact how to make this, so how to get all the right flavors and whatnot, and what ingredients to use. I just add in the vegetables That's about the only thing, and maybe a little butter and cheese. That's the only difference between that and Hamburger Helper. I use the right type of noodle. I use the right type of gravy, although I like using hunter gravy instead of the mushroom, but and you can use any type of gravy really. I like hunter because it has a little bit of rosemary in it, which is a nice calming herb. Helps bring out the flavors and such. So just shredding my cheese ahead of time while I'm waiting for the water to boil for the noodles and for the pan to get nice and toasty so I can start doing the vegetables. This entire meal should take about 25 minutes, half an hour. Depends on how fast the gravy portion of the meal takes. And I'm doing all the gravy cold, so there's no cooking the gravy until it goes into the pan. When you're on the last stage or two of cooking. So I usually wait until like the last possible second to mix up the gravy. I've got the water all pre-measured out. You just have to follow the instructions of the gravy pack for the amount of water that you need. Other than that, you just whisk it together and then pour it into the food and away you go. So, almost done trying finally. Boy, oh boy. That's the cheese. I'll really love my cheese. I just find that it's a 0 for me in terms of spiking my insulin, so I'm like, I might as well have that, have my added protein. And you're gonna fall over the plate, aren't you? Yeah, stay on. Don't you splurt. Don't you fuss and complain too. Okay. Just making sure all the cheese is out of the grater. Little bits that are they're all over the place. Okay. There. So we'll wash that up in a second. Oh, my pan's nice and toasty. Okay. So make sure that all my oil is all over the pan. I kind of like doing the shaking movement helps get the oil to where you want it to go, rather than where it wants to go. So there we go. Just making sure that the edges are nicely covered, so I don't have any sticky bits. There we go. And let the water boil. Add my spices into my veggies. Because I like me and garlic. Love my garlic. And yeah, the spices in each one of these recipes are to your guys' preferences rather than to the recipe, unless it's specifically for the recipe. So like the cheese sauce, for instance, that one has exact measurements. The scones have their own recipe or their own measurements. Anything else, I think, is about your preference over what is needed in the recipe. Don't want you guys to feel like, oh, you're overspicing, or it's to your guys' liking. Look for two or three recipes. And if you notice, none of my recipes have pepper. But you can add it in if you do want pepper, but I just find it doesn't eat it, and there are people that do have a allergy to pepper. I don't exactly like it myself, so I don't add it into my food. I'm just making sure that my vegetables have all the spice, which they do. And I'm just going to put a little bit of water in this, so steam it up. I want to cook it, or cook the vegetables down a little bit, so they're a little bit soft. Just keep running this on. There we go. So the water's just about boiling. I'm actually going to turn it off, because I don't need that yet. Need about 5 minutes for the vegetables. 5-10 minutes. Depends on how crunchy you want the vegetables. If you want them like super soft, then it's like 12 to 15 minutes. I like mine kind of soft, kind of hard. So I put all the vegetables in at the same time, just so that they cook at the same time, but they're at various levels of done. Yeah, so I'm gonna put that away over here. I don't think I need my spices anymore. I don't think. No, I got the chili sauce. Yeah, I'm good. So I'm just gonna put my spices away. Decided to have the camera on this side instead of the other side. You go next. Chili powder. The one I use a crap ton of. Okay. So the water is boiling. I already have it off, so it'll just kind of cool down slowly. By the time I'm actually needing the water to boil, it'll boil a lot faster. It's pre-boiled water. It'll be nice and toasty. Take maybe a minute and a half for the water to go back to boiling temp. So yeah, I just have to wait for the veg to cook. Should be about 10 minutes. And then I think it's about 2 cups that I need for the I'd say like 2 or 2 more. I think it's 2 cups. It's the same as the other. Oh, it's probably 2.5. But then again, you can use any type of pasta with this, so I just want to go true to how Hamburger Helper has it. So I think it's about 2. I'll do 2.5. For me, I'll do 2.5. My pasta anymore. But yeah, I usually get the extra broad egg noodles for this. I like them nice and big, so I'll do that. I think the next episode is going to be the another homemade Hamburger Helper recipe, which is the cheesy Italian, and I got the rigatoni or the fusilli for that, so I'm happy with that. Just waiting on the vegetables to cook. Well, until that phone's been buzzing, so I'm gonna check this. Okay, so it's starting to boil, or it's starting to bubble in here. Just good. And I don't mind having a little bit of liquid in here, because it'll get absorbed in the into the gravy once I add it in, which will be the last step. Right now, I'm just getting these vegetables up. if you don't want to use vegetables, you don't have to. You just basically brown out the meat, cook your pasta, throw your pasta or your drained pasta in, mix up your gravy, or mix it up cold, dump it in there and let it simmer until thickened. It's basically how you do it without any vegetables. I like my vegetables, so I'm adding it in. Just like trying to see what I can do while I'm waiting for the vegetables. This won't take long. I just want to make sure that they're semi-cooked, like not totally cooked, but because they'll continue cooking when I'm working on the meal, so I don't want them like overcooked. So, and just a little bit. I like keeping it between 5 and 6 for the heat, so around medium high, just to keep them cooking without cooking them too fast. I never like cooking anything fast. I always like going low and slow rather than high and fast, because then you know it's going to be cooked at that lower temperature versus cooking at a higher temperature. You run the risk of some parts not being cooked enough. So that's why with the stuffed pockets, instead of doing 400, I did 375, and I cooked it for 2, 3, 4 minutes longer. Actually, I have to film that twice. The first time, the camera cut out on the like 15 minutes in, so I had to reshoot that one on my end. You'll probably see it. I'll probably put it in, do like a separate episode showing the first version of it. I'll probably do like a fast forward type thing, or sort of like what they do for speed paint. Do everything on fast forward, mute the audio, so you can see what it looks like being cooked at high speed. But really, that recipe was really good. It is very filling, very filling, to be precise. And they ended up eating 2 out of the 4 that I made last time. So this time around, I'm going to make them slightly bigger, and I'm going to make them so I can only have like one of them, because I have enough ingredients to make that recipe again. It is good. And then I'll do the episode with the sausage rolls later. I might actually use the scone recipe. I'll have to think of how I want to do the sausage rolls. I might actually be able to do the deal that I have. I'll probably do the ones. It's going to be out in a later episode anyways for the sausage rolls, so I can film that in February. Which means if I'm going to do that, I might as well toss these guys in the freezer, which I'm going to do, because I don't want them to go bad. I'm not going to use them this month, and I was sure that they're sticky. So let's check your green pepper. Still hanging on. It's actually semi-soft, which I kind of want right now. And the carrot. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is ready to go for the next stage. Good. So with that, I'm gonna turn the water back on. Should only take like 30 seconds a minute. Do that. I'm gonna do a test. I'll do it backwards later. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna pop this in. And see if the water says start to boil again. Not even 30 seconds after turning it back on. But that's always a neat little trick. Like if you want to get your water to boil faster, pre-boil it, and then just keep the lid on until you're ready to actually boil the water. And it's like 30 seconds to a minute rather than waiting 3 or 4 minutes for water to boil. There we go. Okay. And there we go. Got my water boiling. This is the quick part. So I turned down to medium high. Did it on 7. So kind of high-low, I guess. That should be enough for this meal. Actually, I'm going to do 3 cups with this. So 2 cups, 3 cups. I just need a little bit more. Doesn't seem like the right amount for me. And yes, my hands are clean, so I can actually do this. 1 more cup, and there we go. That should do that. Could have done half a cup. Oh, I did a full cup. There we go. I know some of those noodles are kind of really old, so yeah, 10 minutes. That's all I need is 10 minutes. Once that's done, then I just drain, throw it into this mix, toss the gravy together, and pour it in. Another quick recipe. Kind of lucky that I'm using like the brown crumbles here. I don't exactly have to cook them, I just have to warm them up. I have to warm them up. I'm adding a little bit of chili sauce because it's about like a little bit of heat, and it also helps with the flavor of the meal. These chopsticks are just a toast. I need to have that chili sauce. So there is my base. So the base is basically ready to go. Let's transition to the rubber scraper, make sure that everything is all covered in. Scrape it down the sides. And turn that down to not quite minimum, but down to 2, just to keep it on low. And I just wait for the pasta. So I'm going to get my dishes while I'm waiting. Chopsticks are cooking. So yeah, that's that, just waiting on the pasta. And then I can mix the other stuff. What else is in here? is the type one would be able to cut meat with. So it has both a serrated edge and a scissor edge. So you're able to do two things at once. And there's also a bottle opener with that. And also a nutcracker. Don't know why there's a nutcracker on the scissors, but it came with the set. So got almost a 4-in-1 tool. When you're washing, I'm always scrubbing. I'm always scrubbing against or with the bolts of the shredder rather than against. So wait, I don't wreck the scratch pad and I get everything clean. That way. And I'm just waiting on things to finish cooking. I've got 6 minutes left. Yay. So, this. Just getting this washed up, dried, and put away. So it's that. Basically my dish is done. I'm just gonna do a rewipe on my things and do them to my roommate. Hello, roommate. You want to say hi to audience? You. Hi. Yeah. I'm gonna be like maybe 10 or so minutes left. This recipe is quick. Yeah, there we go. Seem to have noodles on those steak at the bottom. Yeah, probably because that one's bad noodle. I'll deal with that one later. But they're doing pretty good. 5 more minutes and then the noodles will be ready, so I can grab Mr. Sieve. And this is to be done here. Oh my god. Alright, I should stir this again. There we go. So yeah, just want to make sure it stays relatively even in the pan. 4 more minutes, yay, and then I can drain. And the rest should be pretty damn quick. And yeah, I wanted to add a little bit more fat to the meal, so I'm adding a little bit of butter. Doesn't hurt the meal one bit, it just adds a little bit more to it. Help it make it more satisfying. So I'm finding out that if I have my vegetables and have the right amount of fat to go with the protein and the carbs, it's a lot more satisfying, a lot more hearty. Let's just put it that way. 3 more minutes. Yeah, I usually cook my egg noodles both the same way I cook my macaroni. So I cook for 10 minutes and then it's done. If it's still a little crunchy, well, it's still gonna cook in the meat stuff. I don't need this anymore. So, here we go. Okay. 3 more minutes. Yay. I'm excited for this meal because it's really, really tasty, and I love every single one of these recipes, but this is my most favorite because I can have this all year round. Doesn't matter if it's winter, summer, fall, or spring. It's a really good recipe. Doesn't take all that long to cook, and it lasts a good couple of days at least. Okay, 1 more minute. Much rather have the newer version of this than the Clubhouse, but that's all they had was the Clubhouse version too. Which I really like this because I'm really good with my time. It's just about ready, and I don't need those chopsticks. So I'll pour my water in. So I got my 1 cup of water because that's what the instructions say on this thing. And that. And let's put the other. There we go. So that's the timer for the noodles. And that's basically ready. I don't need the pot anymore. I can put it in there. That's basically ready. Like I said, this is going to be like quick. So I pour my noodles in. Make sure I get all the noodles. Stir this around. That my hamburger and my noodles are incorporated together. So make sure all my noodles are covered with the meat stuff. It is, and that's about the same ratio that you would get with the Hamburger Helper sauce. Sometimes it pays to use your gut instincts. Most of the time I don't exactly measure. I put the butter right in the center there. So then I'm going to pour the gravy right in. Now I just let it simmer, so I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Mix this in. All the dirty dishes. That's my garbage. Mix this up a little bit. Add the butter in there because that's a little bit more higher fat content because I have a lot more curd. So the butter will just add a little bit of richness to it. Burn yourself. So. But yeah, just let this thicken up a little bit. I'm going to put the cheese on top so it can melt while the gravy is thickening. Great. And yes, I like a lot of cheese with this. This is kind of like an extra step. You don't have to put the cheese on, but I do because I like cheese. I'm not afraid. When it comes to a diabetic diet, you don't want lean protein at all, or lean things. You want to have high fat content. So using a fattier meat, using using butter, using like olive oil and avocado oil. Those types of things will help you from having too high of a spike. So if you have lean protein, you're going to spike your insulin a lot more than if you have like a regular full fat. That's why I have full fat milk when I'm doing my recipes, because I know that leaner things will make my sugars go sky high. And that's why I was like, oh wow, this is going to be a less fatty meal. I'm going to add a little bit more fat just to make them more satisfying. That's why I don't eat as much as I would without the added fats. It was just carb heavy. It's one of those things that I've learned over the 4 years or so being a diabetic. And I'm kind of that type that's like in between type 1 and type 2. They've marked me as a type 1, but I'm showing signs of both. After doing my own research, I'm like, okay, so if I'm both, then I have insulin resistance, so I need to correct that. I need to change my diet to a more better lifestyle. So I do 70% of my meal is the fat content. The carbohydrates I try and cut down to between 25 and 50 grams a day for carbs. And then moderate protein, that's usually 6 to 8 ounces of protein, which I have in here. I usually split this meal like in half, so I don't eat the whole pan tonight. I spread it out between 2 days. And then the vegetables, I don't really count. I count vegetables as a 0. Doesn't matter what type of vegetable it is. It's fiber. So it's going to run through your body without spiking your insulin too much. So, like carrots, yes, it'll spike your insulin, but it's only for a short period of time. That's the same with if you use like creamed honey, like honey period, will spike your sugars pretty high, but it's a quick sugar. So if you are crashing, I would recommend taking a spoonful of honey versus those emergency sugar pills. Those sugar pills make your spike a lot longer than a spoonful of sugar or a spoonful of honey. So it's a little bit of a tip. Again, that's from my own experience in having the downside and the upside of being a diabetic. The upside is when I have my low numbers. The downside is when I have my high numbers. So I'm finding out that for me, trying to get to like 5 or between 5 and 7 milligrams per liter, or mmol is the sign. I usually try and get it between 10 to 12 for me, because I find I'm the most alert, have no brain fog, so full of energy. Like I'm at my best when I'm at that 10 to 12 range than I am anything below a 9 or an 8 or 9. So that's just how my body is. It's always different for each person. That's why with these recipes I try and accommodate to how I normally eat. I tweak the recipes a little bit to better help other people that are in similar situation as me. So yeah, ooh, look, it's starting to bubble. And I'm going to have to stir. So here we go, stirring, because the gravy is already starting to become gravy. And the cheese is just going to make it kind of cheesy. Almost like a poutine, but with noodles instead of potato and You get vegetables and hamburger. But really, this is basically the Hamburger Helper Beef Stroganoff. It's just you're making it from scratch rather than getting it out of a box and not knowing exactly what's in there or what ingredients are put in there. I could go a step further and make my own gravy. That's fairly easy. You just use like beef stock or veggie stock, and then you just thicken it up with a little bit of cornstarch or flour. With me, I kind of want to switch out of using cornstarch products and go to arrowroot flour, because that will help decrease the amount of insulin spike. So you're not going to trigger as much insulin with arrowroot flour as you would with corn flour, or not corn flour, baking powder. So I'm going to make my own baking powder. Cornstarch, that's the one I was talking about. Cornstarch. Corn flour. Corn flour is a totally different thing. It is also spikes sugar quite high. That's why I use unbleached flour in most of my recipes, because at least that is going to be, it's still not going to be like healthy, but it's going to be a lot better than using like bleached flour or stuff that's going to spike a lot more. And there we go. Huh. I made mine a little bit more cheesy, but that's basically the recipe. Holy crap, it's actually done. So with that, I'm going to plate it up, and I like using bowls with my meals because it keeps the food nice and hot and keeps everything in where it should be, rather than where it should not. And that's about half the meal. And the butter kind of helps it get a little bit more creamy. Let's use that. There we go. But yeah, that's basically the meal right there. And every time I've made this, it tastes exactly like, or very, very close to the Hamburger Helper box stuff. So that's that. So hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, that's basically. Actually, let me move the camera into the light. There we go. So now you can see. Right, there we go. Now you can see. That's the homemade Hamburger Helper. It's still thin enough, but it's still thin. But I like mine at that in between where it's starting to get thick. But that's about it. So that's that.
Well, that's pretty much it for making this meal. Hope it was somewhat enjoyable and educational. Look forward to the next episode of Eclipse Kitchen. Here's where you could find me and my counterpart. Follow us on Twitter and join our Facebook group where you'll get regular updates on what's going on. Subscribe to this channel and our main channel to see all the wonderful content we'll bring to you. And last but not least, become a Patreon and donate to our coffee to show your support for more content like this and more. You all have a great day.